Chairman. And Madam Deputy Secretary, I want to begin by congratulating you and the State Department, the Biden administration, on what I see as a really, truly special diplomatic achievement today in the UN, but also throughout this crisis. I want to say to my constituents in North Texas and Dallas that the response that we've seen around the world, the unified response in opposition to this illegal, unprovoked, and brutal further invasion of a democratic country was not accidental. It was the product of months of this administration's work to reestablish our multilateral relationships and alliances, and weeks of doing the hard work of bringing along sometimes reluctant allies, and your use of using our own intelligence and disclosures of what we knew was being done to both deny Vladimir Putin any kind of legitimacy or pretext, but also to show the world what was coming, I think is partly responsible for the overwhelming response that we've seen around the world. And so it's difficult while we are still so shocked and still so upset and every day see such, really heartbreaking images coming out of Ukraine, to not take a moment and just say that the unity we're seeing is the product of true diplomatic, I think, genius, and that our response in terms of our comprehensive sanctions, our import controls, will force Vladimir Putin to make a choice to either continue to execute this war, or to be able to pursue his long-term strategic goals. He will not be able to do both. And I think that is due in part to the leadership that you all have shown. And so I want to thank you for that and congratulate you on that. I, along with some of my colleagues, was recently in Ukraine, visiting with President Zelensky, members of his cabinet, members of their legislature, and ordinary Ukrainians. And as others have said, while I am inspired by their bravery, I'm not surprised. And I just want to tell one story very quickly of a young woman we met named Alicia, who told me that she was, if Vladimir Putin did invade her country, she was going to get her white wine and her Kalashnikov and defend her country. And that's what we're seeing now. And it truly is inspiring. And we have to do everything we can in our capacity to support the Ukrainians in this fight. And I think on a bipartisan basis, this Congress is going to do that. And I also want to commend your opening statement about why this hearing is important and why it is important for democracies to debate war powers, to debate the separation of powers, to discuss public accountability for the use of force, particularly now, as we are seeing an unaccountable dictator use force with no reason, no provocation, and in the face of just a mounting set of lies to the global community that I think has removed just any chance of him or his country ever emerging as anything other than a pariah unless they dramatically change course. And to get to the topic at hand, because I do think it's important, as much as I want to talk about what's happening in Ukraine, I do want to talk briefly about this AUMF that I think we all believe should be discussed openly and in the face of the American people. And just to ask about Iranian-backed proxies and how the administration views their authorization there, whether or not they fall under the Associated Forces rubric of the 2001 AUMF, or whether that is an Article 2 consideration.
Thank you very much, Congressman, and I associate myself. I think our whole administration does. This has been an all-of-government effort, and I want to thank my DoD colleagues who are here today, the intelligence community, and every other agency, Commerce, Treasury, leave someone out, Department of Transportation on the overflight decision that was made. Everyone has been engaged in this, along with all of you and with our allies and partners. And when all of those elements come together, the strength is extraordinary, as we have seen. In terms of Iran, We are not seeking a war with Iran. I don't think anyone here is. I hope not. Nor with Iran-backed militia groups. The goal of our engagements to date, including in February and June of 2021, has been to defend ourselves and to deter future attacks on U.S. personnel and facilities. We believe that the episodic individual strikes that have been taken against U.S. personnel and by U.S. forces in response do not constitute ongoing and continuous hostilities with respect to any particular militia group. So remember—
The gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize Representative Peter